Good morning. I'll give you an injury update best I can. Vaughn and Tyler still on PUP. Ed should be back this morning at Oliver, that is. Damian, Cam, and Reggie still out, still working through their injuries. And then today's the last day of training camp in Rochester, and we're extremely grateful to the St. John Fisher staff and the staff of the Bills who have worked well together and gotten us through this camp, and it's been a productive camp, so it's always good to come up here, the way we're treated, and see our fan base in Western New York and the Rochester area in particular and beyond, and very thankful for how the St. John Fisher staff welcomes us with open arms, and I know they're getting ready to host their students and get the school year going, so again, extremely grateful. With that, we'll turn it over to your questions.
Sean, is the rain today going to impact practice at all?
No.
What's the level of concern on Damian Harris?
Always concerned, but to this point, feel like we're heading in a good spot, heading in a good direction on it. Yeah.
So, Sean, since the pads went on, what do you see from O'Cyrus Torrence and how he's handled himself?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's had a good camp. He's a young player that learns every day, and that's the journey of a young player. I think you wake up and you're saying, hey, what hard lesson am I going to learn today? And you just got to stay resilient. I think he's done that, and I think he's done some real good things to this point.
How are you going to approach the first preseason game with starters?
Yeah, most of the starters will play. Josh will not, Steph will not, and then maybe one or two other guys will not, but most of the starters will play. They'll play give or take a quarter, just again depending on who it is and the situation in the game. But overall, we want to get them where they need to go, but also then take a good look at some of the young players.
What do you anticipate sitting Josh throughout the entire preseason?
No.
Coach, how has been your evaluation process thus far in camp, carrying two hats?
Evaluation process, evaluating of camp?
Yes.
Well, again, I think it really helps me evaluate camp when I'm more embedded with the defense like I've been this year, and I think we've had a good overall camp. I think as late as yesterday you saw the offense win some periods and some plays, and the defense then win some of theirs as well. So I liked what I saw yesterday. I thought it was a good back and forth during practice, a good competitive practice.
Hey, Sean, if Isabella has a chance to make this team, is it going to be probably as a return guy? We see him back there working there, but you got a deep receiver room. Is that going to be probably his path?
I would say both, really. The more you can do, the more valuable you become, and obviously having that potential as a returner, I think bodes well for any player that has a special teams component, especially when you're trying to make a football team. So he's done a nice job to this point.
Sean, to jump back to the preseason, do you anticipate if Damar will play, and what have those conversations been like, just getting closer to it?
Yeah, he continues to be on schedule, so we'll continue to take it one day at a time.
What is that like when it is one day at a time? He said the same about how he approaches it one day at a time when it's game planning now. Like, how do you balance making sure you're having those conversations, but also doing what's best for him, while also trying to see who will be on the field?
Yeah, similar to the other players that I mentioned with injuries, all that affects play time. It affects planning. So we try and stay as up to date as possible as we can on that in the communication piece with our trainers, and in this case with Damar. So I've been very impressed by the way he's handled himself to this point, but we remain working on at his cadence.
So are you just to clarify? You're just kind of waiting to hear from him whether or not he feels like he's ready to go in there?
I'm not going to get into the conversations that we're in a good spot. I think he's in a good spot. You've seen him out here every day. Again, we'll continue to take it one day at a time.
Sean, you came to camp with a couple different position battles for starting spots. Leaving camp after today, just in general, do you feel like you got what you needed in those positions and you're trending where you need to be?
I would say yes and no. At some positions, I wish one guy would have just kind of really separated himself, per se, but that hasn't happened, and some of that's due to the competition. Both players, kind of, one has a good day, then the next day the other one comes back and has a better day. So, but overall, I think it's too early at this point, having not even played a game, to make a clear-cut decision either way.
Sean, going off of that, what's the balance between these position battles? Is it you want to see more in training camp and games, 50-50? Do you lean heavily more in one direction? How does that work?
I think you evaluate the whole part, right? Just overall how you factor in the practices, you factor in the red and blue environment as somewhat of a different practice, and now we'll be able to factor in a game, because that's ultimately the environment we're going to be in. So it's not a knee-jerk reaction in any way, shape, or form, but you factor everything that you can, and you also know day to day where we're at. So I'm anxious to see our players play.
Sean, to see Latavius yesterday take that one down the sideline, the way he's worked, the way he looks at his age, what does that say about him and what he can be for your football team?
Yeah, extremely impressed with Latavius and his leadership. He's a pro. He's a pro's pro. He's done a great job just coming in and embracing what we do and how we do things, and then adding his influence in our locker room, which has been good to this point.
Damar takes things one day at a time, as you put it. What's it been like for you seeing his progress as he reaches each of his milestones? Padded practice, being in practice, being in the red and blue game, and then whenever he takes that, steps on the field for a preseason game, if that happens, once that happens.
Yeah, listen, this is to some extent uncharted territory for me as well, and all of us. So we're just trying to do the best we can to be there for him, and like I mentioned at the start of training camp, the interception he made in spring was kind of a surreal moment for me, and I'm sure for him and for many of his teammates. And then seeing him out here going through what he's going through, and even the thud periods. The thud periods are still physical, and I try and keep a close eye on where he is and where he's showing up and how he's responding, and he's done a great job.
Hey, Sean, every training camp at Fisher, I'm sure there's behind-the-scenes stuff that's fun, interesting, whatever. Is there anything that sticks out from these 2 weeks that was kind of interesting, funny behind the scenes that we don't see that you could share? I don't know, interaction with somebody, or you have anything to give us on that?
Yeah, I mentioned it was the night off. I think it was. I've lost track of days now. What was our last night? Today's what? Thursday. Today's Thursday. It was Tuesday night, right? We finished our walkthrough, and the players were ready to get a little bit of 24 hours away from me, away from the football world. And I said, hey, we're gonna scrap the night off, and we'll start the day off tomorrow morning. And instead, we're gonna go to Pittsford Dairy, all of us together, and you should have seen the looks on their faces. They all love Pittsford Dairy, don't get me wrong, we all do. And I've been there more than once this training camp. But they also like their free time, and so they were not really happy at that point. So it was a good little practical joke, I guess. So.
Sean, in addition to that, a big part of why you guys go away to St. John Fisher is to do that team building and get more of that chemistry going ahead of the season. Where do you feel like the team is at with that right now?
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty close-knit group of guys. Ultimately the locker room will continue to evolve over the course of the season because of the journey of the season. But I feel like we've accomplished some of what we wanted to accomplish, and that'll continue to build. That chemistry, that rapport, the camaraderie will continue to build through the course of the season, and then obviously at the cut down it'll take a little bit of a new identity on at that point too, just because of who remains and who left. So, but all that Brandon and I try and factor in. Longer answer than you probably asked for, Maddie, but I think that's important, right? That we factor those certain personalities in as all the different pieces of the puzzle fit together.
What was looking for?
Understanding that Saturday is about planning for you guys and not about the Colts necessarily. Do you still feel you have a good game plan for Isaiah McKenzie and his trash talking when he's all in?
Yeah, he reached out to me this summer, and then at the start of camp, and then since then he's gone silent. So I told him we were going to have to. I've never planned for a receiver in preseason before, but we'll have to find ways to double him and maybe triple team him and make sure we take him out of the plan for the Colts. So yeah, the whole game plan is really focused on him. Actually, I put his picture up in the meeting the other day and said, "Hey, this is public enemy number one. We got to take him away."
Thanks,
Sean,
guys.
you-
We gotta get going.
Hey Sean, do you like the one cut down day because you got guys longer, or is it cumbersome to keep giving these guys reps so late into the training camp preseason?
I think it's really one of those things that we adapt and adjust. It is what it is. So that's what we do. So, thanks.